The silence didn't spread. It echoed, far beyond the forest, far beyond the pack she had just taken control of. Elena felt it the moment it happened, not around her, through her, like something invisible had just connected to everything. Her power didn't stop at the clearing. It expanded, quietly, endlessly, touching places she had never seen, reaching wolves she had never met, and something else, something that didn't belong to them. Her breath slowed, her eyes lifting slightly, as if she could see beyond the world in front of her. "They felt that," she said. The king stood beside her, already alert, already calculating. "Who?" he asked. But he already knew the answer wouldn't be simple. Elena didn't respond immediately, because what she felt wasn't just attention, it was awareness, ancient, heavy, awake. "Not just alphas," she said finally. A pause. Then, something older. The wind shifted, cold, unnatural, carrying a presence that didn't move like wolves, didn't think like wolves, didn't follow instinct. It watched. The king's jaw tightened. That shouldn't exist. Elena's gaze darkened slightly. It does. And that was the problem. Because now this wasn't about control, this wasn't about power, this was about something that existed before both, something that didn't answer to alphas, something that didn't submit, something that might not be able to be controlled. A low vibration spread through the ground, subtle but wrong. The wolves around them reacted instantly, not aggressive, not defensive, uncertain, confused, because their instincts had nothing to compare this to. "They don't recognize it," the king said. Elena nodded slowly. "Neither do I." And that was new, because until now, everything she touched, everything she felt, made sense eventually. This didn't. This resisted her understanding, like it existed outside her reach. And that was dangerous. "Say it," the king said, his voice lower now, more serious, because he felt it too. Elena exhaled slowly. Then, "It's not reacting to me." Silence. Heavy. Immediate. Because that changed everything. Up until now, everything responded to her, everything. But this didn't. The king's eyes sharpened instantly. That means one thing. Elena didn't need him to say it, but he did anyway. "It's not under you." A pause. Then, "It's above you." The words hit. Hard. Because that possibility had never existed before. Elena's chest tightened, not in fear, in focus, because now this wasn't just evolution, this was opposition, real opposition, something designed or existing to face her. And somewhere, far beyond the forest, it moved, slowly, deliberately, toward her. "It knows where I am," she said. The king didn't hesitate. "Then we don't wait for it." A pause. Then, "We hunt first." Elena turned slightly toward him, her expression calm, but sharper now, more dangerous. "No," she said. A pause. Then, "It's already hunting me." The wind dropped completely. No movement, no sound, just presence. And for the first time since everything began, Elena felt something new. Not fear, not doubt, something colder, something heavier, something that made even her power pause. Interest. Because whatever was coming wasn't running, it wasn't hiding, it wasn't reacting, it was choosing, just like her. And that meant this wasn't going to be a war, it was going to be a collision, and only one of them would remain in control. The forest didn't return to normal. It pretended to. The wind moved again. The trees whispered. The wolves shifted, trying to settle back into something familiar. But Elena felt it, that presence, still there, still watching, still choosing. "We need to move," the king said, his voice controlled, but tighter now, because this wasn't something he could fight the way he always had. Elena nodded, not because she agreed, because she understood. Standing still was a mistake. They turned, the pack moving with them instinctively, not commanded, not forced, aligned. But something was off, subtle, wrong. A single wolf near the edge of the group slowed, just slightly, barely noticeable. Except, Elena noticed everything now. Her gaze shifted, locking onto him. "Wait." The words stopped the movement instantly. The king turned. "What is it?" She didn't answer, not yet, because she was listening, not with her ears, with something deeper. The connection, the network she had learned to feel. Every wolf, every instinct, every thread, and one of them was fading, not breaking, not snapping, vanishing. Her chest tightened. Something's wrong. The wolf she had seen stopped completely now, his body rigid, still. Too still. "Elena," the king warned, but she was already moving, closing the distance, slow, careful, because every instinct in her body was telling her this wasn't normal, this wasn't control, this wasn't influence, this was absence. "Can you hear me?" she asked the wolf. No response. His eyes were open, but empty, not like before, not controlled, not taken, gone. Elena reached for him, not physically, through the connection, trying to pull him back, trying to feel him, and that's when she felt it. Not him, something else. Cold, deep, looking back, her breath caught, not from fear, from shock, because for the first time, something inside the connection looked at her. "You shouldn't touch that." The king's voice came sharp, immediate, but it was too late, because now it had noticed her fully, completely. The wolf's body twitched, violently, his head snapping toward her, eyes locking, but they weren't his, they weren't anything, they were empty, and yet something was there, something behind them, watching through them. "Elena, step back." But she couldn't, because now the connection was pulling, not her pulling it pulling her. "What is that?" she whispered. The wolf's mouth opened, slowly, too slowly, like something was learning to use it. Then it spoke, not in his voice, not in any voice she had ever heard, layered, broken, wrong. "You feel different." The words dragged, like they weren't meant to exist, like they were being forced into shape. The king moved instantly, grabbing her arm, pulling her back, hard, breaking the connection. The moment it snapped, the wolf collapsed, lifeless, gone, completely. No breath, no pulse, no presence. Nothing. Silence fell, heavy, unnatural. The pack didn't move, didn't react, because they felt it too, that absence, that impossibility. Elena's breathing became uneven, her eyes locked on the body. "That wasn't control," she said. The king didn't answer, because he didn't have one. "That wasn't even a bond." Her voice dropped, realization settling. That was removal. The word landed hard, because that meant whatever this was didn't dominate, didn't command. It erased. The king's expression darkened. "We're leaving. Not a suggestion, a decision. Now." But Elena didn't move. Not yet, because she felt it again, stronger now, closer, interested. Not in the pack, not in the king, in her. "It's not attacking randomly," she said. A pause. Then, "It's testing." The wind shifted again, but this time it didn't feel like air. It felt like movement, something passing through, something that didn't need a body, didn't need a form, only presence. And now it was closer. "You're not like them." The voice came again, but not from the wolf, not from anywhere. Everywhere, inside the space around her, inside the connection, inside her awareness. The king stepped in front of her instantly. "You don't speak to her." But this time there was no reaction, because it didn't care about him, only her. "You stayed," the voice said. A pause. Then, "You looked." Elena's chest tightened, because it was right, she had, and that meant it had seen her too. "What are you?" she asked, her voice steady, but lower now, focused, because this wasn't something she could overpower blindly. The silence stretched. Then, "You don't understand me yet." A pause. Then, "But you will." The presence shifted, pulling back, fading, but not gone, never gone, just waiting. The pressure lifted, slowly, but the damage was already done. Elena stood still, her thoughts racing, her instincts confused, because for the first time she had faced something that didn't belong to her world. The king turned to her, his voice low, serious. "This changes everything." Elena nodded slowly, her gaze still fixed ahead. "Yes." A pause. Then, "And it's only getting started." Behind them, the pack felt it too. Not fear, not panic, something worse, uncertainty. Because now they knew there was something out there that didn't obey her, didn't fear her, didn't follow anything they understood, and it had just taken its first one, without effort, without warning, without resistance. And next time, it wouldn't stop at one. They didn't run, but they moved faster. The pack stayed close, tighter than before, instinct pulling them together, not in formation, in fear. Even if they didn't admit it, even if they didn't understand it. Elena walked at the front, not because she had to, because she needed to feel it, that presence, that absence, that thing that didn't respond, didn't submit, didn't belong. The king stayed beside her, closer than before, watching everything, not just the forest, her, because he saw it, that shift, that calculation behind her eyes. "You're thinking about it," he said, not a question, a statement. Elena didn't deny it. "I need to understand it." A pause. Then, "If I don't, I can't stop it." The king's jaw tightened slightly. "And if you try too soon?" That was the risk, the one she already knew, the one she wasn't going to avoid. "It's already watching me," she said. A pause. Then, "That means it's already testing." Silence, because that was true, and neither of them liked what it meant. They reached a clearing, wider, open, exposed. Elena stopped, the pack following instantly, waiting, not moving, because they felt it too, that shift, that pressure building again, stronger this time, closer. "It's here," she said. The king stepped forward slightly, positioning, ready. "Then we end it." Elena shook her head slowly. "No." A pause. Then, "We try to understand it." And before he could stop her, she closed her eyes, not fully, not blindly, with intention, and she reached, not for wolves, not for instinct, for that same space, that absence, that void in the connection. At first, nothing. just silence, empty, still, and then it answered, not with movement, not with presence, with awareness, sudden, direct, immediate. Her breath caught, because this time it didn't hide. You're trying again. The voice wasn't around her, it was inside the space she had reached, calm, unbothered, curious. Elena's voice came steady, controlled. What are you? A pause, longer this time. Then, you don't have a word for me. The answer wasn't threatening, it wasn't aggressive. That made it worse. Then explain, she said. The silence stretched, and for a moment she thought it wouldn't respond. Then, you connect. A pause. Then, you remove. Her chest tightened, because that explained everything, too clearly. You erase them, she said. Not a question, a statement. Yes, no hesitation, no emotion, just truth. The king's voice cut in. Elena, stop. But she didn't, because she needed to see how far this went. What do you want? She asked. This time, the answer came faster. You. The word hit, hard, immediate, unavoidable. Elena's heart skipped, but she didn't pull back. Why? Silence. Then, you're different. A pause. Then, you stay. The meaning settled slowly, dangerously, because it had noticed her the same way she noticed it. Recognition, mirrored. And that was the real problem. Elena pushed further, testing, careful but intentional. Then come closer. The moment the words left her, the connection shifted violently, not outward, inward. Something pulled, hard, fast, unnatural. Her body locked instantly, her breath catching, her vision flickering. Elena! The king moved, grabbing her shoulders, but she couldn't respond, because now she felt it, not like before, not distant, not watching, touching, cold, deep, inside the connection and reaching further. You're open. The voice came again, closer now, too close. Elena tried to push back, tried to command, tried to force it. Stop. The word carried power, real power, the kind that froze entire packs, the kind that overrode instinct. But this time, nothing happened. No resistance, no submission, just nothing. And that hit harder than anything else, because her power, she didn't work. For the first time, she failed completely. The presence pushed further, testing, curious, interested. You're different from them. A pause. Then, but you can disappear too. That broke it. The moment her instinct finally reacted, not with control, with survival. She pulled back hard, breaking the connection completely. Her body jerked, air rushing back into her lungs, her knees nearly giving out. The king caught her instantly, holding her steady. What did you do? He demanded. Elena's breathing uneven, her chest tight, her eyes sharper than ever. I tried to reach it. A pause. Then it reached back. Silence fell, heavy, because that was worse, much worse. What happened? He asked. She met his gaze. No hesitation, no doubt. It doesn't respond to me. A pause. Then it interacts. The difference was everything, because now this wasn't a force I could control. It was something that could act on its own, something that could choose, something that could choose her. The wind dropped again, the forest still, and far beyond, it shifted, not retreating, not hiding, interested, because now it knew something new. She wasn't untouchable, and that was the most interesting thing it had ever found.
They didn't stop moving after that. No one suggested it. No one needed to, because something had changed. Again. But this time, it wasn't the enemy. It was her. Elena walked in silence, not focused on the path, not focused on the pack, focused inward, on that moment, that failure, that impossibility. Her power had always worked, always responded, always answered, until now, until it, and that wasn't something she could ignore. "That thing," she said quietly. The king glanced at her, waiting. "It doesn't resist me." A pause. Then, "It exists outside of what I control." The words were precise, measured, because she was already analyzing it, breaking it down, rebuilding the understanding. The king nodded slowly. "And that means?" Elena's gaze lifted slightly, sharper now, more focused. "It means I've been using my power wrong." Silence, because that wasn't what he expected. "You stopped an entire battlefield," he said. "You controlled every wolf there." A pause. "How is that wrong?" Elena shook her head slightly. "Because I've been forcing it." That word lingered, because it changed the entire foundation. "I've been pushing outward," she continued, "overriding instinct." A pause. Then, "But it doesn't have instinct." And there it was, the difference, the problem, the gap. "It's not part of the system," she said, her voice lower now, more certain. "It's something else." The king's expression hardened slightly. "And you think you can reach it?" Elena didn't answer immediately, because that wasn't the right question. Instead, she stopped, turning slowly, facing the pack, facing everything. "I think I need to stop trying to control things." A pause, then, "and start understanding them." The air shifted, subtle but real, because something inside her adjusted, not expanded, not forced, rebalanced. She closed her eyes again, but this time she didn't reach outward. She didn't search for connections. She didn't force links. She waited, listened, felt. At first, nothing, just silence, stillness. And then something changed, not outside, inside. Her awareness didn't push forward. It settled deeper, layered, expanding in a different direction, not across distance, through it, between it, the space between connections, the space where nothing existed, or so she thought, until now. Her breath slowed, her focus narrowing, sharpening, because now she felt it, not as presence, not as connection, as absence, structured, intentional, alive. "There you are," she whispered. The king's head snapped toward her. "What?" But she didn't answer, because she wasn't talking to him, she was talking to it, and this time it responded differently, not immediate, not intrusive, curious. "You changed." The voice came again, but softer, closer to something understandable. Elena didn't react, didn't flinch, didn't pull back. "I adapted." A pause. Then, "You exist between connections." Silence. Then, "You see more now." Not approval, not emotion, recognition, progress. The king stepped closer. "Elena, what are you doing?" But she raised her hand slightly, stopping him, not harsh, not forced, just enough, because she needed this. She needed to go further. "You don't connect. You remove." A pause. Then, "But you still exist in the space I can feel." This time, the response came faster, closer, stronger. "You're learning." Her chest tightened slightly, because that tone, felt different, less distant, more engaged, dangerously engaged. "What are you?" she asked again, but this time not demanding, understanding. The silence stretched longer, deeper, and for a moment it almost felt like hesitation. Then, "I am what remains when connection fails." The words settled, heavy, complex, incomplete, but enough to understand one thing. It wasn't just distraction, it was consequence. Elena opened her eyes slowly,
her gaze sharper now, more grounded, more aware. "You're not attacking randomly." A pause. Then, "You're correcting something." The air tightened, because that was closer, closer to truth, closer to danger. The king's voice came low. "That doesn't make it less of a threat." Elena nodded slightly. "No." A pause. Then, "It makes it worse. Because now, this wasn't chaos. This wasn't instinct. This wasn't evolution. This was purpose. And purpose was always more dangerous." The wind moved again, but this time it carried something else. Not just presence, movement, closer, real. The king's stance shifted instantly, alert, ready, because this time it wasn't just reaching through connection, it was coming, physically. "Elena," he said quietly, but she already knew, because now she felt it differently, not distant, not abstract, close, very close, and whatever it was no longer satisfied with watching. It wanted to see her, face to face, and this time she wasn't going to fail.
The forest went quiet again. Not naturally, not peacefully, deliberately, like something had just entered and everything else stepped back. Elena felt it before she saw anything. That same absence, but heavier now, denser, present, not distant anymore. Here. The pack reacted instantly, not with aggression, not with defense, with confusion, their instincts failing, because there was nothing to read, nothing to track, nothing to understand. The king stepped forward, positioning himself slightly ahead, but not blocking her, not this time, because he knew this wasn't something he could stand between. "It's here," Elena said, her voice steady, but lower, more focused, because now, this wasn't theory, this was contact. The air in front of them shifted, not like movement, like distortion, a ripple, barely visible, like heat bending light, but colder, darker, wrong. "There," she whispered. The king's eyes narrowed. "I don't see anything. That's the problem." The ripple expanded slightly, then compressed, folding inward, and for a second, just a second, something appeared. Not a full form, not complete, a silhouette, humanoid but incomplete, edges breaking, reforming, like it wasn't built to exist physically, but was trying anyway. The pack took a step back, instinct finally reacting, not to a threat, to impossibility. The king didn't move, didn't step back, didn't flinch, but his entire body tensed, ready, because whatever this was, it had crossed into his world now. "You changed again," it said. The voice didn't come from a mouth, the form didn't have one, it came from the space around it, inside the distortion, layered, unstable, but clearer than before. Elena didn't look away, didn't step back. "You followed me," she said. A pause. Then, "You wanted to see." That answer, dangerous, because it mirrored her, too closely. The king's voice cut in. "You don't get closer." The form turned, slightly, not fully, like it didn't need to. "I don't move like you." A pause. Then, "I arrive." Silence hit hard, because that wasn't movement, that was inevitability. Elena stepped forward, one step, careful, measured. "You said you remove," she said. A pause. "Why?" The distortion flickered, stronger now, more stable, like being near her helped it exist. "Because something breaks," the words slower, more deliberate, "and I am what remains." Elena's chest tightened, because that answer wasn't random, it had logic, structure, purpose. "Then why take him?" she asked, her voice sharper now, stronger. The form shifted again, closer to defined, but still unstable.
He was already gone. A pause. Then, I only finished it. That changed everything, because now, this wasn't just an attacker, this was something that acted on weakness, on failure, on collapse. The king stepped closer. You don't decide that. The form didn't react, didn't defend, didn't care. It's already decided. Elena felt it again, that pull, that awareness. But this time, it wasn't pulling her in, it was aligning, matching. You're not separate from us, she said, the words coming faster now, more certain. You exist because of us. Silence. Then, you're closer now. Not agreement, not denial, recognition, progress. Elena took another step forward. The king didn't stop her, didn't interfere, because now, this wasn't something he could control, and he knew it. You came to see if I could disappear too, she said. A pause. Then, didn't you? The distortion flickered, violently this time, like something in that statement mattered. You resist. The words came sharper now, more defined, but not completely. That was the line, the threat, the truth. Elena felt it hit, hard, because that meant this wasn't over, not even close. What happens if I don't? She asked, her voice calm, but dangerous, focused. The shape stilled, completely, more solid than before, more present, more real. And for the first time, it answered without delay. Then, I change. Silence exploded, because that was worse than anything else it had said, because it meant this thing didn't just exist, it adapted. The king's voice came low. Then we ended before that happens. But Elena didn't move, didn't attack, didn't retreat, because she understood now, this wasn't something you destroyed. This was something you either became stronger than or were erased by. You're not finished, she said. The shape tilted slightly, listening. You're still becoming. A pause. Then, so am I. The air tightened, the space between them charged, because now, this wasn't first contact, this was recognition. Two things, both evolving, both adapting, both learning from each other. And that meant, next time, it wouldn't just be watching, it would be ready.
No one moved. Not the pack, not the king, not even the air. Because something had locked the moment in place. Elena stood facing it, closer than before, closer than anything should have allowed. And for the first time, there was no distance left between them, no layers, no filters, just presence, raw, direct. You're still learning, she said, her voice calm, measured, controlled. The shape didn't flicker this time, didn't distort. It held, more stable than before, because of her, because of this. You are too. The answer came instantly, clearer, stronger, closer to a real voice. That was the shift. It was adapting faster now, because it had her, because it was learning from her, and that made this moment dangerous. Elena didn't step back, didn't hesitate, because if it was evolving, she needed to be faster. Then let's stop testing, she said. A pause. Then, let's see what happens when I don't hold back. The king's voice cut in immediately. Elena, don't. But it was too late, because this time she didn't reach carefully. She didn't adapt slowly. She unleashed it. Everything. Her power didn't expand gradually. It exploded outward, a wave of force, command, dominance. Every connection, every thread, every instinct in the forest surged at once. The ground trembled, the trees bent, the wolves dropped instantly, not forced, overwhelmed, because this wasn't control anymore. This was authority at its absolute peak, and it all focused on one thing, it. The shape didn't move, didn't react, didn't resist. At first,
The power hit it directly, a full force command, the kind that had stopped entire armies, the kind that had overridden everything. But this time, something different happened. The power didn't break it, it passed through it, like it wasn't solid, like it wasn't there. Elena's eyes narrowed, pushing harder, forcing more, deeper, stronger. Stop. The word carried everything: command, force, law. And for a split second, the shape flickered, distorted, unstable, like it had felt it, like it had almost reacted. Then it changed, not by resisting, not by pushing back, by adjusting. The distortion tightened, condensed, more solid, more defined, and then it pushed, not outward, not violently, just enough. And Elena felt it, her power, shift, not break, not fail, move, like it had been redirected. The force she had unleashed, bent, around it, not touching, not reaching, sliding past. Her breath caught, because that wasn't resistance, that was understanding. You push too directly. The voice came again, calm, clear, learning. You can't force something that isn't there. Elena froze, just for a second, because it was right, again. But this time, that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what came next. The shape lifted its hand, slow, deliberate, mirroring her, and for the first time, it acted, not through the connection, not through absence, physically. The air around her shifted instantly, not violently, not aggressively, but enough to disrupt. Her balance faltered, her focus slipped, her power scattered. Elena! The king moved instantly, stepping between them, breaking the line, breaking the moment, and the second he did, the pressure stopped completely, like it had never been there. Elena steadied herself, her breathing uneven, her chest tight, because now, this wasn't theory, this wasn't observation. It had acted, it had responded, it had learned how to interact with her. It pushed back, she whispered. The king's gaze locked onto the shape, cold, sharp, ready. It's evolving. The shape didn't deny it, didn't hide it, didn't slow down. It's becoming. A pause, then, so are you. Silence fell, heavy, because that wasn't a threat, that was a truth, and truths like that changed everything. Elena straightened slowly, her eyes locking onto it again. No fear, no hesitation, but something new. Respect. Because now, she understood. This wasn't something she could overpower. This wasn't something she could command. This was something she had to match. You didn't fight me, she said. A pause. Then, you adapted. The shape tilted slightly. You pushed me to do so. And that was the line. The moment everything shifted. Because now, this wasn't predator and prey. This wasn't control and resistance. This was something else entirely. Two forces, both evolving, both learning, both pushing each other forward. And that meant, next time, it wouldn't just adjust, it would anticipate. And if she didn't evolve faster, it wouldn't just test her, it would finish what it started.
The forest didn't recover. It held its breath. Like it understood this wasn't over, not even close. Elena stood still after the clash, not shaken, not broken, thinking, because now she knew something she hadn't before. Force wouldn't work, command wouldn't work. Dominance meant nothing to something that didn't belong to the system, and that left her with one option: understanding. Real understanding, not control, not power, connection, different from before, different from anything she had ever tried. You're changing your approach, the king said, his voice low, careful, because he could see it, that shift behind her eyes again. Elena nodded slightly. I have to. A pause. Then, it doesn't respond to pressure. Her gaze lifted, locking on to the shape again. It responds to presence. The shape didn't move, but something in the air around it tightened,
listening, interested. That was new and dangerous. You shouldn't get closer, the king warned. But this time, she didn't step back. She stepped forward, slow, deliberate, not aggressive, not defensive, open. The pack shifted uneasily behind them because instinct screamed that this was wrong, that this was a mistake. But Alina ignored it because instinct had failed here before, and she wasn't going to rely on it again. "I'm not going to fight you," she said, her voice calm, clear, different now. The shape flickered, just slightly, not unstable, reactive. Why? The question came immediately, sharp, curious, because that wasn't expected. Elena didn't hesitate. Because you're not attacking randomly. A pause. Then, you're responding to something. Silence stretched, and for the first time, it felt like the shape was considering, not reacting, not answering immediately. Thinking. That alone was enough to change everything. "You're seeing more now," it said, finally. Elena took another step closer. Careful, measured, not aggressive, not defensive, open. The pack shifted uneasily behind them because instinct screamed that this was wrong, that this was a mistake. But Elena ignored it because instinct had failed here before, and she wasn't going to rely on it again. "I'm not going to fight you," she said, her voice calm, clear, different now. The shape flickered, just slightly, not unstable, reactive. Why? The question came immediately, sharp, curious, because that wasn't expected. Elena didn't hesitate. "Because you're not attacking randomly." A pause. Then, "You're responding to something." Silence stretched, and for the first time, it felt like the shape was considering, not reacting, not answering immediately. Thinking. That alone was enough to change everything. "You're seeing more now," it said, finally. Elena took another step closer. Careful, measured, not aggressive, not defensive, open. The pack shifted uneasily behind them because instinct screamed that this was wrong, that this was a mistake. But Elena ignored it because instinct had failed here before, and she wasn't going to rely on it again. "I'm not going to fight you," she said, her voice calm, clear, different now. The shape flickered, just slightly, not unstable, reactive. Why? The question came immediately, sharp, curious, because that wasn't expected. Elena didn't hesitate. "Because you're not attacking randomly." A pause. Then, "You're responding to something." Silence stretched, and for the first time, it felt like the shape was considering, not reacting, not answering immediately. Thinking. That alone was enough to change everything. "You're seeing more now," it said, finally. Elena took another step closer. Careful, measured, not aggressive, not defensive, open. The pack shifted uneasily behind them because instinct screamed that this was wrong, that this was a mistake. But Elena ignored it because instinct had failed here before, and she wasn't going to rely on it again. "I'm not going to fight you," she said, her voice calm, clear, different now. The shape flickered, just slightly, not unstable, reactive. Why? The question came immediately, sharp, curious, because that wasn't expected. Elena didn't hesitate. "Because you're not attacking randomly." A pause. Then, "You're responding to something." Silence stretched, and for the first time, it felt like the shape was considering, not reacting, not answering immediately. Thinking. That alone was enough to change everything. "You're seeing more now," it said, finally. Elena took another step closer, careful, measured, not aggressive, not defensive, open. The pack shifted uneasily behind them because instinct screamed that this was wrong, that this was a mistake, but Elena ignored it because instinct had failed here before, and she wasn't going to rely on it again. "I'm not going to fight you," she said, her voice calm, clear, different now. The shape flickered, just slightly, not unstable, reactive. Why? The question came immediately, sharp, curious, because that wasn't expected. Elena didn't hesitate. "Because you're not attacking randomly." A pause. Then, "You're responding to something." Silence stretched, and for the first time, it felt like the shape was considering, not reacting, not answering immediately, thinking. That alone was enough to change everything. "You're seeing more now," it said, finally. Elena took another step closer, careful, measured, not aggressive, not defensive, open. The pack shifted uneasily behind them because instinct screamed that this was wrong, that this was a mistake, but Elena ignored it because instinct had failed here before, and she wasn't going to rely on it again. "I'm not going to fight you," she said, her voice calm, clear, different now. The shape flickered, just slightly, not unstable, reactive. Why? The question came immediately, sharp, curious, because that wasn't expected. Elena didn't hesitate. "Because you're not attacking randomly." A pause. Then, "You're responding to something." Silence stretched, and for the first time, it felt like the shape was considering, not reacting, not answering immediately, thinking. That alone was enough to change everything. "You're seeing more now," it said, finally. Elena took another step closer, careful, measured, not aggressive, not defensive, open. The pack shifted uneasily behind them because instinct screamed that this was wrong, that this was a mistake, but Elena ignored it because instinct had failed here before, and she wasn't going to rely on it again. "I'm not going to fight you," she said, her voice calm, clear, different now. The shape flickered, just slightly, not unstable, reactive. Why? The question came immediately, sharp, curious, because that wasn't expected. Elena didn't hesitate. "Because you're not attacking randomly." A pause. Then, "You're responding to something." Silence stretched, and for the first time, it felt like the shape was considering, not reacting, not answering immediately, thinking. That alone was enough to change everything. "You're seeing more now," it said, finally. Elena took another step closer, careful, measured, not aggressive, not defensive, open. The pack shifted uneasily behind them because instinct screamed that this was wrong, that this was a mistake, but Elena ignored it because instinct had failed here before, and she wasn't going to rely on it again. "I'm not going to fight you," she said, her voice calm, clear, different now. The shape flickered, just slightly, not unstable, reactive. Why? The question came immediately, sharp, curious, because that wasn't expected. Elena didn't hesitate. "Because you're not attacking randomly." A pause. Then, "You're responding to something." Silence stretched, and for the first time, it felt like the shape was considering, not reacting, not answering immediately, thinking. That alone was enough to change everything. "You're seeing more now," it said, finally. Elena took another step. The space between them didn't feel empty anymore. It felt fragile, like something unseen was holding it together, barely.
Elena didn't move, didn't break eye contact, because now this wasn't about distance, it was about truth. "You weren't always like this," she said, her voice calm, but sharper now, more certain. The shape didn't respond immediately, but it didn't disappear either. That alone meant she was right. "You hesitate," she continued. A pause. Then, "You react." Another pause. "You change." The distortion flickered, not violently, subtly, like something inside it was shifting. "You notice too much." The voice came lower now, less stable, less detached. Elena took a slow breath. "You said you're what remains," she said. A pause. "After something breaks." Her gaze narrowed slightly. "So what broke?" Silence. Heavy. Different this time. Because this wasn't resistance. This was something else. Something closer to avoidance. The king stepped closer behind her. "Elena." But he didn't finish, because even he felt it. This moment was different. The shape shifted again, closer to form, edges more defined, almost human now, but not quite, never quite. "You're pushing into something that doesn't belong to you." The words came slower, more deliberate, like it was choosing them carefully. Elena didn't step back. "Then why can I feel it?" That hit. The distortion tightened, unstable. "You shouldn't." A pause. Then, "But you do." And that was the crack, the opening. Elena felt it instantly, that hidden layer, that buried space beneath the absence. And without thinking, she reached for it, not forcefully, not like before, carefully, like touching something fragile, something that could disappear or break. The moment she did, everything changed. Her vision flickered. The forest, gone. The pack, gone. The king, gone. Silence. Endless, dark, but not empty. She was standing somewhere else, or something else. A memory, not hers, a place that didn't exist anymore. Shapes moved in the distance, blurred, incomplete. Wolves, many of them, connected, stronger than anything she had felt before. A network, perfect, unbroken, alive. "What is this?" she whispered. The voice came, but not from the shape, from everywhere, from inside the memory. "This is before." Her chest tightened, because she understood immediately. This wasn't just its origin, this was its past. "They were connected," she said. A pause. Then, completely. The scene shifted, suddenly, violently. The connection fractured, not slowly, not naturally, torn. Something broke it, something massive, something overwhelming. The network collapsed, wolves falling, connections snapping, everything gone, erased. And what remained was silence, that same silence she had felt from it. "That's you," she whispered. The voice responded instantly. "I am what stayed." The words hit hard, because that meant it wasn't the cause, it was the result, the aftermath, the consequence. "You didn't destroy them," she said. A pause. Then, "You survived it." Silence. Then, "Yes." The answer was different this time, not cold, not distant, heavy, carrying something new, something deeper, something close to pain. The memory began to collapse, breaking apart, fading, and Elena felt it, that pull again, stronger now, deeper, not just observing anymore, being pulled in. "You stayed," the voice said. A pause. Then, "You can stay again." That was the danger. Not destruction, not removal, assimilation. Elena's breath caught, because she felt it, that space, that silence, that absence trying to take her in, not violently, not forcefully, inviting, drawing her deeper. "You don't need them," it continued.
The voice closer now, inside the memory, inside her awareness. You don't need connection. A pause. Then, you can exist like this. The offer, terrifying, because part of her understood it. The calm, the silence, the control. No chaos, no instability, no weakness, but also no life, no bond, no choice. Elena! The voice cut through, distant, faint, the king reaching her, pulling her back, and that broke it. Her eyes snapped open, the forest rushed back, the air, the pack, reality. Her body stumbled slightly, the king catching her instantly, holding her steady. "What did you see?" he demanded. Her breathing uneven, her chest tight, her eyes still adjusting. "I saw what it was." A pause. Then, what it lost. Silence fell. Because that changed everything. "It's not just a threat," she continued, her voice lower now, more certain. "It's a consequence." The king's expression hardened. "That doesn't make it safe." Elena shook her head slightly. "No." A pause. Then, "It makes it worse." Because now, this wasn't just something to fight. This was something that came from collapse, from failure, from destruction. And if it happened once, it could happen again. The air shifted again, but softer this time, less aggressive, more distant, watching, waiting, because now it had shown her something, and in doing so, it had changed the game completely. And the worst part, she had felt it, understood it, connected to it, and that meant next time it wouldn't just pull her in, she might not want to leave.
The forest felt louder. Not in sound, in contrast. Every movement, every breath, every connection around her felt heavier now, because she had felt the opposite. Silence. Perfect silence. And part of her missed it. Elena stood still, the pack moving cautiously around her, the king close, watching, always watching, because he could see it, that change, that hesitation. "What did it show you?" he asked again, his voice lower now, more controlled, but sharper, because he needed the truth. Elena didn't answer immediately, because the truth was dangerous. "It wasn't just nothing," she said finally. A pause, then, "It was peace." Silence hit instantly, heavy, uncomfortable. The king's expression darkened. "That's not peace." Elena looked at him, and for a second there was something in her eyes that hadn't been there before. It felt like it, and that was the real danger, because if it felt like peace, then it could pull her again, stronger next time, easier. "You're thinking about it," he said. Not a question, a warning. Elena didn't deny it. "I'm thinking about what it is." A pause, then, "and what it could do to me." The wind shifted again, soft, cold, familiar now, and this time she didn't tense, didn't resist. She felt it, accepted it, just slightly, and that was enough. "You stayed longer than before." The voice came again, not distant, not aggressive, close, too close, inside the space around her. The king stepped forward instantly. "You don't come near her again." But the presence didn't react, didn't acknowledge him, because it didn't need to. It had her. "You felt it," it continued. A pause, then, "You understand it now." Elena's chest tightened, because it was right. She did, and that made this harder. "It's empty," she said, her voice steady, but quieter now. "Not empty," it corrected. A pause, then, "complete." That word hit differently, because it changed everything. Complete meant nothing missing, nothing broken, nothing needed, no connection,
no bond, no dependence, no pain. You don't need anything there, it said, the words slower now, more precise, more intentional. And nothing can break you. The offer again, but clearer this time, stronger, more tempting. Elena closed her eyes just for a second, and she saw it again, that space, that silence, that stillness, and she felt it pull, not violently, not forcefully, gently, like it was waiting for her to choose. You don't have to fight anymore. The voice softened, lower, closer. You can stay. Her breath slowed, her body still, because part of her wanted to. No more battles, no more pressure, no more expectations, just existence, perfect, unbreakable, complete. Elena, the king's voice cut through, sharp, grounding, real. You don't get to leave like that. The words hit, different from the entities, not soft, not tempting, real, heavy, alive. You don't get to disappear, he continued. A pause, then, not after everything you chose. Her chest tightened, because that mattered. Choice, not escape, not absence, choice. You think this is peace? He said, his voice lower now, closer. You think nothing is better than something? A pause, then you're not the one I stood beside. Silence broke, not outside, inside her, because that hit deeper than anything else. Not control, not command, truth. You chose them, he said. A pause, then, you chose this. Her eyes opened slowly, the forest rushing back fully, the pack, the movement, the chaos, the life, imperfect, unstable, real. The presence lingered, still there, still waiting. You can still stay. One last time. The offer, clear, final. Elena took a slow breath, her gaze steadying, her mind clear again. No. The word came quiet, but absolute. The space shifted instantly, not violently, not aggressively, but noticeably, because something had changed. You refuse, it said, not surprised, not angry, understanding. Elena stepped forward, this time firm, certain. I choose. A pause, then I don't disappear. Silence fell, heavy, but different now, because this wasn't tension, this was decision, and decisions changed everything. The king stood beside her again, not speaking, not interrupting, just there, and that grounded her more than anything else. The presence pulled back slightly, not retreating, recalculating. You will break again, it said. A pause, then, and I will remain. Elena didn't flinch, didn't hesitate. Then I'll rebuild. The answer came instantly, stronger, sharper, more certain than anything she had said before, because now she understood. This wasn't about avoiding collapse. This was about surviving it, becoming stronger because of it, not removing it, not erasing it, facing it. Every time, the presence went still, completely, because that was something new, something it hadn't fully processed yet, something it hadn't adapted to. Choice, not survival, not reaction, choice. And that might be the one thing it didn't fully understand yet.
The forest didn't wait. It shifted, subtly, but undeniably, because something had changed again. Not in it, in her. Elena stood still after her decision, not shaken, not uncertain, clear, completely clear, because now she understood the difference. It didn't need connection, it didn't need control.
It didn't need anything. And that was its strength, but also its limitation. The presence lingered, watching, always watching. You chose to remain incomplete. The words came again, calm, measured, but different now, less certain. Elena didn't react, didn't defend, because she wasn't trying to prove anything anymore. No, she said. A pause, then, I chose to evolve. Silence, because that wasn't the same thing, not even close. The king stepped beside her, still injured, still recovering, but standing, always standing. What are you doing? He asked quietly, because he felt it, that shift again, that moment before something changed. Elena's gaze stayed forward, locked onto the distortion. I'm not fighting it, she said. A pause, then, I'm changing how it affects me. The presence tightened slightly, listening, analyzing, adapting. As always, you cannot change what I am. The statement came instantly, absolute, certain. Elena nodded slightly. I know. A pause, then, but I can change what I am to you. That was new, and it hit hard, because it wasn't force, it wasn't resistance, it was strategy, the kind it hadn't faced yet, the kind it didn't fully understand. You remove what breaks, she continued, her voice calm, precise, focused, so I won't break. A pause, then, I'll change before that happens. The air tightened, because that created a gap, a space, a problem, something it couldn't easily process. You already do, it said, but not fast enough. Elena's eyes sharpened. That's where you're wrong. And then she moved, not physically, not aggressively, internally. The shift was instant. Her power didn't expand, didn't surge, it restructured. Every connection she held, every link, every thread adjusted, not stronger, not weaker, different, flexible, resilient, alive, not rigid, not fixed, impossible to snap because it didn't stay the same long enough to break. The moment it happened, the presence reacted, for the first time, not in curiosity, in disruption. You are unstable. The words came sharper now, less calm, less controlled. Elena smiled slightly. Exactly, because that was the answer. Not perfection, not completeness. Change, constant, unpredictable, unbreakable. Because you couldn't remove something that refused to stay the same. The presence pushed, testing, trying to find the gap, the weakness, the break, but there wasn't one, because every time it reached, she had already shifted, already adapted, already changed. This doesn't stop me, it said, but this time there was something new in its voice, uncertainty. Elena stepped forward one final time, not as a challenge, not as a threat, as a statement. I'm not trying to stop you. A pause, then, I'm making you irrelevant. Silence exploded, because that was something it hadn't faced. Not resistance, not opposition, irrelevance. And that was something it couldn't remove, because there was nothing to target, nothing to erase, nothing to finish. The presence stilled, completely, longer than before, deeper, more uncertain, because now it had to adapt to something new, something it didn't fully understand, something it couldn't immediately correct. You changed the outcome. The words came slower now, less certain. Elena didn't move, didn't react. Good. A pause, then, because I'm not done. The presence shifted, pulling back, not retreating, not defeated, thinking, recalculating, adapting, as it always did. This continues. A statement, not a threat. Elena nodded slightly. I know. The distortion faded slowly, not disappearing, not vanishing, just leaving. For now, the pressure lifted, the forest breathed again, the pack stirred, movement returning, life returning, but nothing was the same. The king exhaled slowly, watching the space where it had been. You didn't defeat it. Elena turned slightly towards him, her expression calm, but stronger than ever. No. A pause. Then, I made it play my game. And that was the difference. Because now, this wasn't survival, this wasn't reaction, this was evolution. Controlled, chosen, intentional. The king studied her for a moment, then a faint smile appeared. Then let's see how long it keeps up. Elena's gaze lifted, beyond the forest, beyond the horizon, because she felt it, not just it, more, others, watching, waiting, awakening, because now the balance had shifted, not broken, shifted, and that was far more dangerous. Her voice came calm, final. This was just the beginning. Far beyond them, in the space where nothing existed, something moved again. Not alone, not singular. Others, like it, different, but connected in a way she couldn't fully understand yet. And this time, they weren't just watching, they were coming. Because she hadn't just survived, she had changed the rules. And now, everything was about to respond.